Hi folks, and welcome to the Ace Tanker for the Oni, the Tier 7 Super Heavy Japanese tank. And before we begin with the gameplay or the history or anything else, I'm going to explain the introduction to today's video because I don't rage very often, and in the introduction you saw me do a little bit of raging, but not much. I don't insult players. I rarely insult players in World of Tanks, but I will comment on gameplay. And in that particular game, it was so annoying because I was on basically a loss streak where our top tier heavies were constantly, game after game after game, basically playing as support tanks. Top tier heavies, city maps, playing as support tanks, sniping from the back, letting the tanks 2 tiers lower than them basically go up against the enemy top tier heavies who were actually playing the game while they sat at the back and sniped. And in that particular game, it was Siegfried Line. It was a city map, and we had a top tier E75 who went into a side scraping position and sat there for 5 minutes. I'm not kidding. He sat there for 5 minutes in the same position, never moved his tank from that side scraping position, fired his gun 3 times, trading shots with a Tiger 2, and basically sat there while the team collapsed around him. Now, I asked him why was he doing that in a top tier heavy, because I just had enough at that stage, and he, he said, put that on your shit YouTube channel, so I did. Be wary about what you ask in game. So, he asked to be featured, and I decided to feature him, because that is something. It's something recently, well, not recently, it's basically been for the last 12 months, has been getting on my nerves more and more and more. It's just, people don't understand the role they need to play in a game. It's a team-based game. They need to play a bigger role, especially when you're top tier. When you're top tier, you've got to have a bigger impact on the game. Your team are counting on you to use your armor, or use your firepower, or use your mobility, especially when you're top tier. You've got a much bigger responsibility for your team to do a good job, and he just didn't do it, and the team collapsed, and it was another loss, and a long string of losses. And I commented on his gameplay, and he insulted my YouTube channel. No, but he did ask for a shout out, so yeah, as I say, be wary of what you ask for. But on a brighter note, someone else I ran into in a game probably about 8 months ago. Yep, that's how long I've been meaning to do this. I ran into someone in a game about 8 months ago, and they asked for a shout out on the channel, and I was planning to give them a shout out, but I do get asked occasionally for shout outs, but it's not through me not doing shoutouts. I'm quite happy to do a shoutout. If someone recognizes me in game and says hello, then I'm quite happy to do a shoutout. Problem is, I'm incredibly forgetful, or I put it on the back burner. You could see that by my video releasing schedule. Things are constantly put on the back burner, and I just kept on forgetting to give this guy a shoutout. For 8 months, every video I've made over the last 8 months, I've been meaning to give this guy a shoutout, and I forgot to. And about a week ago, we were playing a game. I was platooned with, I can't remember who, but once again, I ran into the same player, and they said hello, but, they tried to send me a message in the garage. I've got people contacting me in the garage after games turned off, but, he contacted one of my platoon mates and said, pleasure to be killed by you. And I recognized the name, Gerald ZZZ. So this is the guy who asked me to give him a shout out about 8 months ago, and I said I'd think about it, but I was planning to, and just kept on forgetting to. And then we ran into him about a week ago, and he was very, very nice to say hello, and even went to the bother of contacting one of my platoon mates to say hello to me again. And I just want to apologize, Gerald ZZZ. You've been on my mind. You've been on my mind for about 8 months, and I just haven't got around to it. So there you go. There's your shout out, Gerald ZZZ. Pleasure playing against you, not once but twice. Once with you and once against you. And I'm sorry if I was the one who took you out. Oh dear. Anyway, yeah. So if you do see me in game, ask for a shout out. I'm not going to promise it's going to happen, but I've got no issues. I've got no issues. Giving someone a shout out if I remember to. Yeah, anyway, let's get on with this video, because this is me being a top tier heavy, and I'm going to take responsibility, and I'm going to be playing on the front line and playing aggressively, because that's what you got to do when you're top tier heavy. And I'm doing it in the Oni, which is not historically accurate, because Japanese super heavy tanks were all called OI. So all the super heavy tanks were actually given the designation OI, and the only difference between the different different Japanese super heavy tanks was their weight. So this is a tank that weighed over 125 tons. I don't know how much it actually weighed in real life, or, well, it didn't actually weigh anything in real life because it didn't exist. The OI began with the OI Experimental, which I talked about on previous videos. The OI Experimental was a 100-ton tank. The OI at Tier 6 was a 120-ton tank based on the OI Experimental, and that tank actually, there's evidence that says it didn't exist, or, people were saying it didn't exist even in blueprints, but then there's other evidence that suggests it was built, and, it had a crew of 11, only one was ever built, but they were impractical, and, you've got to admit that a tank probably did exist, even if no one has seen the blueprints, if there are parts of that tank still in existence, and there are still track parts from the OI that are on display in an engineering school in Japan. So regardless of whether or not people have seen the blueprints and said it didn't exist, well, the tank has parts that still exist from it. So there's a very, very good chance the OI at Tier 6 was developed. And in-game, the OI leads on to the Oni, which is another OI. I don't know where the name Oni comes from, but once again, multiple sources saying multiple different things. The one thing they all agree on was that the tank was never built, but Wargaming say it existed in blueprints. A couple of other sources suggest it may actually have been in blueprints, and then other sources from Japan themselves say that the tank didn't exist in blueprints, but it did exist in drawings. So it was part of a super heavy tank line for Japan, but it only existed in drawings. But whether or not it did exist in blueprints or drawings, it doesn't matter. We've got it in game. So this is a Tier 7 monster. So just like the OI at Tier 6, the Oni comes with a choice of two guns that kind of determine how you like to play and how you like to play the tank. It comes with a 100mm, just like the OI at Tier 6, that basically has 190mm of penetration, 330 alpha damage, which is pretty good for a Tier 7. But when you consider you're going to be facing Tier 8s like the IS-3 and Tier 9s, basically 190mm sometimes doesn't cut it, and the gun isn't particularly accurate, it isn't particularly good, doesn't have good aim time or good gun handling, but it does have a faster rate of fire, and it does have more DPM, so maybe the 100mm is viable, but it's me, and I love my derp gun. So again, just like the OI, the other choice of final gun for the Oni is a 150mm howitzer. This thing is, I love my derp guns, so the 150mm howitzer, it's exactly the same as it is at Tier 6 on the OI, except slightly better aim time, slightly better accuracy, but not by much, but it means I get 75mm of penetration, not as good as the KV-2 at Tier 6, but you get 910 damage. So with so many lightly armored tanks in the game these days, I'm enjoying my derp tanks more than ever. But yeah, so I'm actually running the derp gun, even though the 100mm is very, very viable, and I see a lot of players using the 100mm on this tank because it's probably a little bit more consistent. I just have fun using the derp gun, so that's what I decided to use through my entire Oni grind. Anyway, we are here on Redshire. So what do you need to know about this tank? Well, it's, yeah, unfortunately, for some reason, maybe you guys could help me out, is TanksGG working? Because for the last couple of weeks, every time I sat down to use TanksGG for a video, TanksGG is just not working. I can't get 3D models anymore. They don't appear. They're invisible. And if they do appear, they're distorted, and then I try and, the whole image is locked, so I can't actually get you the armor values on TanksGG anymore. I can't show you the 3D models. But this thing roughly has between, depending on where you hit it up from the front, about 200 to 220mm of armor. So what are you going to do? A lot of people seem to have problems taking out Japanese tanks. Well, the Oni, it's got a couple of major weak spots. The first thing is these side cheeks. You can see these angled side cheeks. Now, from the front, the armor is okay. If you hit these, there's a good chance you're going to bounce, but if an enemy tank is maybe to your side, then you can see that this armor is all of a sudden very, very flat, and that's where you want to hit an Oni, or a lot of Japanese tanks if they've got these shoulders, if it's slightly angled, or maybe just readjust your position rather than facing them straight on, try and get slightly to one side and try and get them in the cheeks. The other very weak spot from the front on the Oni is the drive wheel. The inside drive wheel, just here, is very weak. So again, if you can't get shots at the cheeks, or you're going to have problems penning the cheeks, basically try and go for the drive wheel, try and get shots in here, again at a slight angle, and try and get through the hull, through the tracks. And then if tanks get to your side and rear, this is spaced armor. Above this, the skirting here is not spaced armor, so this is where you want to be shooting most Japanese tanks, above the tracks, above the spaced armor, into the side here. And again, you know, if Tanks GG was actually working, I could probably give you an exact figure, but I believe it's about 70 or 75 millimeters, depending on the tank. I can't remember. So 70 millimeters of armor just above the tracks, or 75, depending. I wish Tanks GG was working. Let me know. Let me know if you guys can get Tanks GG working, whether it's just me and something I need to do, or whether this site is broken. But yeah, these tanks very vulnerable when you get to the side and rear. But from the front, they can be a huge problem to take out. But anyway, we're gonna go. I've been talking far too much. And I want to say, I know it's a little bit late. I've said it on Facebook. I basically said it on the stream. Some of you may not have seen a quick surprise stream I did a couple of days ago. But yeah, for those of you, it's still officially Christmas, so Merry Christmas. I hope you had a wonderful day if you celebrated. If not, I hope you're enjoying the time off. Or if you're working, then, you know, I'm hoping you're enjoying the overtime. But yeah, I had a very quiet Christmas. Basically, usual Christmas day with my family, Christmas dinner, opening presents. And for me these days, the best part of Christmas is seeing my nephews and nieces, getting all excited, opening their presents, discarding whatever was in the boxes and playing with the boxes. Yeah, that's kind of fun. But yeah, okay, top tier heavy, and you can see that the speed is only getting up to around 25 kilometers an hour. Now that's the top speed. This tank will reach its top speed, but its top speed is not very good. I'm looking towards the enemy team, and I'm seeing their top tier Oni is coming over, and that's fine. Now, the main reason I use the derp gun, as opposed to the fact I really enjoy derp guns, is the fact that, you know, you've got to remember this tank will face tier 8 heavies, it'll face tier 9 heavies. Now, 190 millimeters of penetration on the 100 millimeter is going to struggle. You know, and even against lower tier tanks, it's possible you're going to be bouncing shots. And the one thing the derp gun gives me, even though the aim time and accuracy is terrible, and the reload is terrible, the one thing it does give me is guaranteed damage. Now, I may not pen, I may not do full damage, but it's a guaranteed damage as long as, you know, basically as soon as I hit the target, I miss. And yeah, there we go. So we're side scraping, and you can see the enemy Oni is also using the derp gun, and 55 damage. Yeah, so hit my side, went into the spaced armor, but Oni's also using the derp gun, and that's fine by me. That is fine by me. So we're going to try and do some side scraping now. This is a decent side scraper, but as I say, you've got to worry about tanks firing at your cheeks. So, you know, easy, nice little kill on the KV-1 there. And we're just going to go to work. So the Oni's coming back. I'm on a reload again. Side scraping. And okay, that was a decent HE roll. He did 238. Thankfully, no crew or module damage. But, you know, Oni, it's going to take him a long time to kill me with HE. But, you know, we get a side scrape or a side shot into him. 311 damage. And this is what I mean about guaranteed damage here. Because this is a tank where even if I come up against an hull down IS-3, I can still do 300, 400 damage to him. If I come up against tier 9s, for example an ST1 that I might have problems dealing with, then yeah, oh, side shot and failed to pen. Okay, I was holding my shot for a better shot, get a shot into the side of the Sherman Jumbo, but yeah, the guaranteed damage is the reason I love the derp gun, apart from the fact I love firing HE at lightly armored targets. So I'm just trying to get guns off the battlefield. The Oni is down to 722. You can see me completely ignore him because I know he's on a reload. And we try and get a penetrating hit in the rear of the IS. So once again, you know, Sherman Jumbo, no problems here. And going face to face against the enemy Oni. Moving my turret, and there we go. Shot into the gun mantle. Oni does 190. So, you know, he's down to 298, and I'm going to go for his commander's cupola, and 290! Leave him on 8 health. This is not good, but alright, so we've done it. We've won this flank as top tier heavy, and then I see the IS, or is it the M6? The M6 goes down to a Jagdpanther. And I decide, you know what, look at the top tiers, look at the remaining tanks on the enemy team. Yep, there we go. We've just lost the IS as well. So I know there's a Jagdpanther, I know that there's a T-25AT, I know that there's RT pre-aimed at that corner. I'm still on a lot of health. I've got 1,000 hit points, or over 1,000 hit points, but there's no way I'm advancing alone against all those TDs sitting on the ridge. With RT support, it would be absolutely suicide to go alone. So I'm actually reversing. I'm going to change the direction. Most of my team are on the 1-2 line, so even though I'm top tier heavy and I've still got a lot of hit points, there's no way I'm going to go up there. So there we go, GW Panther just took out our RT. How he took out our RT, I don't know. Maybe a blind kill, saw tracers. But now we're without RT support. So I've fallen back because, as I say, I don't want to deal with... Look at all those TDs up in C4, C5. There's no way. I'm saying Comet is over there in stealth, the Jagdpanther is over there in stealth. I'm saying don't go, we're losing tanks, we just lost another 2 tanks in quick succession. But I've changed my angle of attack, so they're expecting maybe me to come along the, B8 area. That might be pre-aimed there, but I've completely relocated in an incredibly slow tank with a lot of hit points left, and that's something I forgot to mention. One of the nice things about the Oni is it gets 1,550 hit points, which is more hit points than any other tier 7 in the game. So you get a lot of hit points. Basically, this tier 8 levels of hit points at tier 7. And considering you've got armor to back those hit points up, it makes this tank, literally what it was, which is a mobile bunker. So we're relocating. And I'm kind of surprised this was an ace, really, because we're only up to 1,300 damage, and I'm top tier. And usually it's a little bit difficult, or a little bit more difficult. Oh dear, there you go. You can see the accuracy. I thought that shot was going to hit, but may have hit a rock, may have hit the ground right in front of the SU-100. But yeah, as I was saying, this is I've just lost my train of thought. I've just lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? I don't know. It's a mobile bunker. So we're advancing, and I've got nothing to shoot at. I'm wasting my time here, really, to be honest, because this gun, it's not accurate enough, and you could see how high that shot went. So KB2 up there, another King of Derp, 1 tier lower. But easily as good a tank at tier 6 as this is as a tier 7. In fact, I'd probably rather still play the KB2, even in this matchup, as not top tier. But so many tanks sitting on J5, and our team are doing a good job keeping them spotted. But there's the T-67 going down to the, the Jagdpanther. We're going to pre-aim, and not much to shoot at, and I'm not going to waste my shot this time. So we're slowly advancing, and I've got to keep on the move. I'm probably being a little bit too passive here because RT is in play, and I don't want to get hit by RT. I'm trying to stay in the RT shadow on the other side of the hill because RT was last spotted in A4. But yeah, okay, lots of TDs, and I'm kind of baiting them. I want them to come out. I've got lots of hit points, but I need to get shots in. I need to reduce the number of enemy tanks because they're winning. The enemy team are winning. It's 3 versus 5 right now. GW Panther has now been put under pressure by the M4. What a soldier in the M4. I get spotted moving up, and SU-100 is taking too long to turn, and we can aim, and we're... Okay, there we go. That's why I like the derp gun. So 447 damage above the tracks. That's a dangerous 122mm taken out of the game. So just the KB2, T-25AT, and Jagdpanther left. RT went down to the M4. Okay, so there's the Jagdpanther. He's reversing. That guy's a one-hit kill. T-25AT. I've got an orange reticule, but this is what I mean. I've done 260 damage, and it's possible to bounce in if you're using the 100mm, but HE doesn't bounce. So I'm going to ignore the T-25AT, staying at an angle. He is able to pen, and this reload. It's one of the downsides, so it is still 3 versus 3, but thankfully our M4, or no, it was our Panzer SFL, takes out the Jagdpanther. I take out the T-25AT. We're up to 2.2k damage, just the KB2 left. Yeah, and you've got to deal with the reload. Oh, KB2 is not looking at me, he's looking at the M4. So, derp on derp action. He's only on 261. Looks as if he may have gone AFK, he may have rage quit. So we're just going to move in, derp him. Easy kill for the Oni, and 4 kills. And being top tier, that's where I lost my train of thought, because I was top tier and I basically, didn't have an amazing game. I mean, 2.5k damage, 4 kills, but top tier heavy. It's that's what you would expect as a top tier heavy. So I was quite surprised when the ace popped up, because I felt we were shooting some lower tier tanks, tier 5s, tier 6s, we were being a bully, we were top tier heavy, and usually when you're top tier you're shooting lower tier tanks and you don't earn as much XP, so sometimes when you're top tier it can be harder to pick up an ace tanker, but we also picked up high caliber. We finished top on XP with 1340, which was enough to pick up the ace, and as I said, the XP total was a lot higher than I was expecting. We ended up doing over 3k, or nearly 3k damage, 4 kills, which again is what I would expect from a top tier heavy. I do want to give a shout out to the M4 Sherman Fishface, who wasn't top tier and had a really good game in his M4 Sherman, so well done to you. Yeah, fire 12, hit 10, pen 10, but that's not quite true because we were firing a derp gun, so HE, didn't fully penetrate, but didn't do full damage with the HE penetrations, but it was good enough. And as I say, that's why I prefer using the derp gun on the Oni than the 100mm. It's because when I do run into ST1s, when I do run into E75s, when I do run into, hull down IS3s, it doesn't matter. I'm not worried about bounces. All I have to do is hit them. Or hit in their general vicinity, and I'm going to be doing guaranteed damage. How much damage is a little bit, unknown, because it could be an incredibly low roll or it might be a penetration, but at least I'm doing damage, whereas if, there's no chance of bouncing or ricocheting an HE shell. So, as I say, happy with the damage. Received 10 hits and got penned 5 times, only bounced 5 shots. So, the armor, when players get to your side and rear, know the weak spots on the tank, they can pen it, and it's a little bit situational that way. It's really good when it's top tier, and it's really good when it's fighting against inexperienced players, but most experienced players are going to be able to take out an Oni. Damage 7, destroyed 4, did 855 assistance damage, and didn't spot the mobility and speed of this tank meant that every single enemy tank on the team, or every tank on the enemy team was spotted by someone else before I was able to get there. But 36,000 credits with a premium account, and it wasn't first game of the day. I was actually playing it towards, I think it was the end of the grind, I can't remember, but yeah, it's done, it's dusted, and it's going to be sold, because basically it's just too similar to the OI, and same final guns, same playing experience. It doesn't feel like that much of an upgrade, and I didn't particularly enjoy the tank, but I didn't hate it, and I imagine, even though I haven't played tier 8 yet, I imagine the tier 8 is pretty much a very similar playing experience to the Oni. But yeah, there we go. It's done, it's dusted. I want to wish everyone what's left of the holidays, happy holidays, happy Christmas, happy Hanukkah, whatever. Or if you don't celebrate, just enjoy a few days off, or have a drink. Yeah, so there we go. More videos coming up on the channel very soon. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.